Alright guys, welcome back to F1 News. Red Bull's DRS effectiveness has been a massive talking point so far this season, and an advantage that many of their rivals are intending to replicate. Mercedes have not only figured out how they're achieving this, but apparently have a potential solution in the works for their own car that's going to come shortly down the line. If they can achieve this, would be a massive step forwards for the W14. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. First of all, an update here, just a confirmation of what I mentioned yesterday, that driver presentation in Miami, we are going to see that at between 6 to 7 races this season. It might be in slightly different formats. Hopefully it won't be like what we just saw. And Formula 1 say, oh yeah, there was such a positive reaction from the fans to this. Okay, the drivers were very much, let's just say there was a mixed opinion. Basically all the drivers hated it. Hamilton didn't mind it, he said it was fun, but you know, he's obviously mates with LL Cool J and will.i.am, so he's not going to say they did a terrible job. So, I mean, nobody really liked it, let's be honest here. But apparently the fans had a positive reaction, and I'm sure they can see that very well from the like-dislike ratio on the YouTube video, where, well, everyone let their thoughts be known with the YouTube dislike extension feature. So, I mean, look, they're going to run it back. I don't want to see it, but whatever, it is what it is. Also, Andretti confirmed, I think even Michael Andretti on the grid with Martin Brundle said that they're working on their process, so they're going to get the paperwork in by the middle of July, so that's a pretty exciting prospect. And speaking of drama with potential teams, Alpine have a big one on their hands as well. Funny in a way, because I thought the big drama this season at Alpine was going to be Gasly versus Ocon, but apparently it's Otmar as the team principal versus Laurent Rossi and the other guys involved from a higher up perspective. Laurent Rossi has said there are a lot of excuses which leads to poor performance. I need the right people to tackle this, going on to say that it's Otmar and his team, but Otmar doesn't do everything, but the buck stops with Otmar. So yeah, it's really interesting what's happening there at Alpine. I think this is really kicked off by the Aston Martin situation. The fact that Alpine as a works team, right, they were Renault, now they're Alpine. In theory, they should be there with the Red Bulls, the Mercedes, the Ferraris of the world. They've never really got particularly close. They've not produced spectacular cars. They are trying to get from 4th to 3rd, but the reality is they're going from 4th to 5th because Aston Martin have taken a big leap forward and shown that it is possible with some real ambition and investment. So Otmar says, you know, not too much of a big deal. It's not increasing the pressure, but let's be honest here, it is increasing the pressure on them to deliver the results. And rumours are that they're going to have a fresh engineering recruitment drive, bring in actual good people to make their car, fresh investment, a brand new simulator, new factory, and kind of looking at what Aston Martin have done and saying actually what what Lawrence Stroll has done there with all the new facilities and paying for the big engineering names and all this type of stuff has actually worked out rather well. Who could have thought? So let's dive into this Red Bull DRS thing, right? Mercedes are working on this big update that they are planning to bring, of course, to Imola. They actually trailed out a new power steering thing this weekend in Miami. There was also another interesting piece in this article I mentioned that Mercedes is still, again, the best car on its tyres on the grid. It has the best tyre deg of all the cars. Well, at least it's right up there with Red Bull and Aston Martin, pretty much on the same pegging order for that. And that was one of the only real strengths of the W13. The Ferrari is actually 7th best in tyre degradation, which is far from optimal when you want a decent race car. And Hamilton said he was kind of surprised and pleasantly surprised that he was mixing it up with the Ferraris and managed that overtake towards the end of the race on Charles Leclerc and said it's impressive how Ferrari's one-lap pace is so good, but yet they're kind of nowhere in the race, right? So Toto Wolff has given thoughts on the Imola upgrade, says brand new bodywork. It's he called it a large operation, basically a big surgery to their car. New floor, new front suspension. They would change twice as much as this if they had the budget to, but the budget gap is a thing that has to be respected. And Christian Horner has said it's a long season. Mercedes have a lot of development time available to them. I keep hearing of massive upgrades for Mercedes and significant ones for Ferrari. So if they're bringing a B-spec car, which they're not because they don't have the money to bring a new chassis, Mercedes, but they will bring significant updates. And, you know, Mercedes usually get their upgrades relatively on the money. Ferrari, it's always a bit of a, a coin toss really, right? And their brand new floor they brought in Miami gave them apparently 1/10 of a second. So that's not really much in the grand scheme of things. One massive advantage, though, Red Bull have had is their DRS effectiveness. First of all, their straight line speed is good anyway. They have, good power units, great ERS deployment, deployment, as we mentioned yesterday, and their car is just very slippery in a straight line. But the DRS, the advantage they gain with that is significantly more than any other team is able to create. They gain about 8 kph more than would be expected from a normal DRS system. So how have they been able to achieve this? Ferrari have been looking into it, right? And I know that, Vasseur has been making the point for some time. They have a mega DRS advantage. It's mega big, dare I say, bigger than everybody else. We have to understand how they're able to do this. Now, Ferrari have figured out how they're able to achieve this by stalling out the beam wing. This is the triple DRS effect that people talk about, where effectively when they open the DRS flap, it changes the airflow, not just over the rear wing, but how the airflow works through the diffuser, through the beam wing, which is the little wing below the rear wing. So basically it creates an effect where the downforce is being stalled out on those other elements of the car as well, which gives them additional increase in their straight line speed. Now, Ferrari did the calculations and they said, okay, if we were able to stall out the beam wing, what advantage would that give us in straight line speed? And they found out the number was 8 kph. And then when you look at what Red Bull's straight line speed advantage is, it's about 8 kph. So I think teams have figured out how they're doing it. The question is, can you actually make your car do the same thing? Which is what the teams have been working on. We haven't heard any news from Ferrari as to whether they've been able to achieve that, but we now are hearing from Mercedes that they have been able to find a way to do it. Mercedes have also observed, as I'm sure all the teams have been trying to, how Red Bull have achieved this incredible DRS efficiency, and they have identified a possible solution for the W14, which will be applied down the line. Not at Imola, further down the line than that. Imola is the 6th race, then it goes to Monaco, then Spain, then Canada, which I think is like maybe 18th of June, 9th or so race of the season in Canada, and that's where they're looking to bring this potential upgrade. So it's not immediate. It will, of course, require further work and development, and of course, when they bring the new upgrades to the car, that is going to affect the airflow as well to a certain extent. But it's very interesting to hear that Mercedes might have found a way, because it's been such a massive advantage for Red Bull the last couple of years. Their car is basically impossible to overtake in a straight line. We saw it last year at Canada when it was Sainz versus Verstappen towards the end of the Canadian Grand Prix. You guys might remember Sainz was on his tail for several laps, but had DRS the entire time, but could never make the move happen because the DRS on the Ferrari wasn't good enough, and the straight line speed of the Red Bull was so good that there was no move to be done there. Whereas the other way around, Verstappen was able to get that move done a few laps earlier. Same story in Jeddah last year when it was Verstappen Leclerc, Leclerc Verstappen, and then when Verstappen got through, there was nothing Leclerc could actually do to fight back. So that's a massive advantage Red Bull have in a race perspective, but it also gives them a big edge in just qualifying, right? I mean, the fact that they can gain an extra 8 kph at the end of a straight compared to their rivals on what would be the same downforce level is a mega advantage, which probably gives them a good, 10th and a half a lap, depends on the length of the DRS zone, but it's definitely important. And just looking at some of the numbers here, right? So this was from Australia when Red Bull, with no DRS involved, was 7 kph faster than Mercedes, which is slightly higher than the general difference in just pure aero efficiency within between the two cars. I think really the Mercedes is probably a couple of kph off the Red Bull in terms of just pure aero efficiency, but it was 7 kph faster there. With DRS open, it was 14 kph faster. That's the kind of roughly 8 kph difference you're looking at. And then when Red Bull had DRS and Mercedes didn't, they were 36 kph faster. So, that just goes to show. And in terms of the percentage of drag reduction, we can see some of the numbers here. Red Bull are able to reduce their drag by 37%, Ferrari by about 32%. Aston's is the least effective of anybody, and we can tell by the numbers that as well when we look at the straight line speed, top speed performances here from Miami. Now, this is always somewhat misleading, right? Verstappen got up to 350. Stroll was actually the fastest at 351. But look, is the Aston Martin a faster car in a straight line than the Red Bull? No, it is not. But there's, of course, toes involved from the car in front, especially if there's multiple cars in front. That effect gets amplified. But also, almost all the teams now that aren't Red Bull have had to sacrifice some downforce to at least be competitive in a straight line. They're taking off a lot of rear wing, the other drivers. Certainly Aston Martin, they brought a brand new rear wing to Baku, that their plan is to run that going forward so they can at least be competitive on the straights and try and keep up, but then you suffer in the corners. What Red Bull are able to do, because their DRS is so good, they can actually run medium downforce basically everywhere they go. Even Monza last year, they ran a medium downforce rear wing because it protects the tyres. The higher downforce you have, the less your car, especially the rear of the car, slides around, the less tyre degradation you get. So that's an advantage to be gained from running higher downforce levels. And because their DRS is so good anyway, it doesn't matter if they're running slightly higher downforce because their straight line speed anyway is good with their aero efficiency. Their DRS effectiveness is very high, so they can still make passes and and maintain an advantage. For example, this race in Miami, on day one of practice, Mercedes were losing quite a lot of time to the Red Bull on the straights, right? So then Mercedes thought, right, we're going to have to lower the rear wing level here to try and actually be competitive on the straights. But then Red Bull gained all their time instead in the second sector, the twisty sector. So that's the advantage to be gained here by having this incredible DRS, is that it helps you organize the car in the other parts of the circuit to gain even more of an advantage, which is what Red Bull are currently enjoying. So if Mercedes are able to do this, maybe they don't gain 8 kph, maybe they gain an extra 5 kph with DRS, but whatever it is, it's a pretty big edge because it actually allows you to make overtakes far more easily than you would otherwise. It allows you to run higher downforce, so you can gain additional benefits, and also it probably unlocks an additional at least 10th and a half, I would say, in pure qualifying performance. Certainly on a circuit like Miami, if you can go 8 kph faster towards the end of the straight in the DRS zones, that's going to give you a fair bit of time. We can see in, let's say, Jeddah, for example, the Red Bull versus the Aston Martin was really no different in Sector 1. It was all straight line speed where the Red Bull was getting the advantage, and that's why they're able to stick it on pole there rather than Alonso, to be honest. If Alonso's DRS was good as the Red Bull's, he would have been right there for pole position in Jeddah. But, you know, that's where they gained all their edge. So if Mercedes can do something similar, and I'm sure the other teams will try to as well, that will eat into Red Bull's advantage. But of course, it's far from a guarantee whether they can actually make this work, and even if they can find a proper implementation, will it actually be as effective as Red Bull's is? Just because, you know, Adrian Newey is a bit of a wizard when it comes to designing cars. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Just one final thing, because everywhere wants a Grand Prix. Potentially the French Grand Prix is going to return. There's a meeting during the Monaco weekends about this, and yeah, I guess we'll stay tuned for that one. I'm not really going to miss it too much, but I actually think it's a bit of an underrated track, but not on the calendar, of course, this season. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.